And I think we should be recording now. So again, welcome everyone. I know we've got a couple recordings going on. Welcome, Marie. So I was out last week with sort of advocacy week, and I've been sick for a week. So trying to kind of reacclimate myself and get going. Did get caught up on the book. I think I'm tracking a little bit ahead of where we're at on sort of our time frames here. I know we jumped into some things last week. Let me screen share and pull up where I'm at with what we're talking about. And let me clean up my. Whoops.
So, Greg, we had a agent with us in the first meeting. Hi, Marie. With dark hair, and her and I go to Solid Core together. And so I saw her, and I will tell you that I confirmed with her that coming with JPAR, she would not regret it. And I do not know her name.
Yeah, Doris. She just actually left my office. That's who I was meeting with. So
okay, great.
Yeah. She didn't have her book with her today, so she ran out. But we were kind of doing our strategic planning meeting for her, and part of that team's already come over, and she's coming over. Yeah, they're bringing a few listings, and so it'll be good. They're pretty productive.
Great.
So we're excited. As a side note, it kind of dovetails into what we're going to be talking about today. I reached out to June Steinweg. I told you yesterday, so she said that she'd be more than happy to speak with you next week. She's got a few things going on with her. She's an expected grandmother, and she's got a couple things going on. But next week, she said she'd be more than happy to speak with you. So I'll share her contact information with you if you'd like. So let me pull up my notes on where we're at. And I think we're into some a good area because we're getting into, I have section 3 here, hopefully. Yeah, so session 3, we've talked about the science of goal setting. We're kind of into the bridge portion of it. And I think this is where we really need to drill down on. We should kind of already have our mindset set, and been talking about starting to frame what our learning objectives are going to be, our learning goals and our performance goals. The via personality challenge or character strength survey. I know Jeannie was an overachiever, and she had already done her portion of it. I had started to do mine, and it looked like it was more questions than I thought. So I put it on hold. I'm going to finish that this evening. Excited to do it because I actually just did a personality profile for my youngest son, who just took an internship at a law firm. So I always love doing those kind of things because I think it helps you assess what some of your strengths are, what some of your weaknesses are. And we talk about the brainstorming portion of where we're at on this goal setting, which I'm having fun with. I realized too, as I'm going through this exercise, and why I love doing sort of the book clubs, business planning exercises every year, it really focuses me and gets me to focus on be more laser focused on what my goals are, right? That's the whole point of what we're doing. And it set up the ability for me to have a conversation with my youngest son about, being proactive in life instead of reactive, the importance of setting goals and to be strategic about achieving those goals. Like, things don't just happen to you. If you want good things to happen to you, we have to be strategic about it, and having those goals in place and having a strategic action plan in place to achieve those goals, I think, is paramount to success. So I really love that part of why we're doing the book club and refocusing on these goals. I have the learning objectives. I think I told everyone for myself. Part of some of my 2025 goals was mastering AI, incorporating AI into my training. I'm a member of the Maryland Real Estate Educators Association, but also from a broker perspective of two brokerages, I want to leverage some of that technology to help me be more efficient and more productive. And one way that I realized in order to do that, I know for me, like when I wanted to get my broker's license, I paid for the entire GRI series ahead of time. I paid for my broker's exam ahead of time. And I knew even though that was like two years worth of sort of work, if I pay for it, I'm going to do it because I'm kind of cheap that way, or I don't know if cheap's the right word, but I know if I spent money on it, I'm going to follow through and do it. And so I signed up for this AI 3-month AI class for about $4,000, and I know like that's a fair investment for me, $4,000. I'm going to learn that material whether they teach it to me or not now, because I've spent $4,000, and if I don't get what I need from them, I'm going to go out and learn on my own just to justify the expense that I've already invested in it. So it's going to force me to achieve that learning objective and that learning goal. So I'm super excited about that. And
Greg, I agree with you. Sometimes those costly coaching or learning things I've found in my case, it while I may not have had them teach me exactly what I wanted to know, it put me on the path to find how or other resources to get that knowledge and training or mastery.
yeah,
Is that sounding like what you're talking about?
exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Like I know, like I've invested in that space. I've invested that time. Whether they give it to me or not, I'm going to go find it. And so for me, that works. Like if I'm going to learn something, there's a lot of different ways to learn it. Like for about a year, I've been saying, I need to figure this AI stuff out. I need to figure ChatGPT out. Left to my own devices, I'll get distracted. I may learn it a little bit here and learn it in increments, but if I go spend $4,000 on a program to learn it, I'm going to learn it, whether from them or someone else, because now I'm just not going to waste that money. So I'm excited about that. It's already helped me be more productive, set up some systems in place. Had a meeting with an agent today that we're going to help her with some of her onboarding checklist to be more systematized within what she's doing. So I think it's just a good productivity hack. It's one of those things. Love it or hate it, whatever you think about AI, it's here. We're not going to avoid it. Might as well master it so that I can get the most out of it and be a part of that program and leverage it to help me achieve what my goals are. So I've got a few goals. I've kind of narrowed it down to 5. But again, I'm excited. I took about a year off of really my goal setting trajectory. I think the first 4 years when I had this brokerage, I had very firm goals in place. Last year, I winged it more than anything, which I don't like to do. And now I'm back about being more purposeful about it, more strategic, which is great. I see things in my life. I've got a very, I hate to bring it back to me, but I know me more than I know anyone else. When I've succeeded, it's because, and when my trajectory has been on the right path, it's because I've been strategic about things. And I think that's with everyone, right? If you wait for life to happen to you, you don't know what you're going to get. But if you're purposeful about where you want to go and where you want to be and what you want to do, better things happen. And I know, Marie, we talked a little bit. You shared with me what you were doing. I thought it was fantastic. Maybe if you want to come off your mute and tell everyone what you've been working on. I thought that was fantastic, just as a side note. But you also you talked about what wasn't working for you, so you had to pivot and course correct, and what is working. And I'm excited about what you're putting together.
Oh my gosh, do you have about an hour? I started out. I was a salesperson. I was very successful at it. I grossed over $1 million a year for a private company in sales. And through various reasons, I decided I would try real estate. So I jumped in and I joined KW Flagship. And I can remember Sonia saying, I didn't know anything about social media and Sonia was like, just do it, just do it. And I was like, a babe in the woods. It was like, what are you talking about? And so anyway, it's been a real slog for me because it was, everything was so technical, and I did a little bit on the computer in my previous position, but I didn't really, I mean, leads came to me, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, make a long story short, I now have a PhD in YouTube, because when I didn't know something, I would just explore and do, YouTube exploration. So recently, I just sat back and I said, this business with social media, trying to come up with ideas, trying to create the social media, trying to do and post and the different sizes for the different platforms. I was like, this is a terrible waste of time. And then determining, I had a course, I was taking a course, and they were like, do it organically and you should post at these different times. And of course, each platform had a different time where they recommended you post it. It didn't work for me. So finally, I just said, you know what, I have to revamp this whole thing. So I went exploring and I said, what do people really want to know when they're thinking about hiring a realtor? And I came up with, I think they want to know the process. I know I want to know process. I don't want to wing it. I don't feel comfortable winging it. And so I went digging around and I found apps and programs. And, now I've developed my own personal seller and buyer presentation that's sequential. So if somebody doesn't know anything about how to buy or sell a house, that, this is a method to inform them and instruct them, and also hopefully to connect that I am the professional and, I'm going to help you. And then, I've tried a couple of other things. What else do you want me to tell you, Greg?
Yeah,
Anyway.
I like the fact that you've really systematized what that process looks like for you. It looks very professional. I think it's going to be great now that you just need to identify sort of the methodology for delivering that to the consumers out there, and then they'll start to see the time and effort that you've put into it, that you're professional, and it really shows through on some of the material that you put together in that. So it looked really good.
Oh,
Marie,
Uh,
do you have that on a funnel type of a delivery? I think that might be what you're referring to, Greg.
no, I don't. And maybe that's something I should look into. But anyway, I don't. But maybe that's something I need to consider, because I
think
know
that's
funneling
one
is the
of
way to
my
go.
I think that's one of my disappointments in KV Core or Bold Trail or whatever they're calling it now. I don't think Bold Trail came, and I have not seen the implementation on that platform of a funnel type
Mhm.
situation. Am I
Yeah.
missing something, Greg, or do you know of anything that JPAR might have in the toolbox that we can use, especially with all this AI stuff?
Yeah, let me get back to you on that. Let me look into it and see where we're at, because they have changed some of their base models a little bit. Some of the things that from the CRM to even the hub. So let me look and see where we're at as far as how we can kind of funnel that information out and fill that sales pipeline. But you think even I was talking to actually Doris was in earlier. We were talking about doing a home buying presentation in one of the neighborhoods that she worked in with, and she was working it with a lender, Marie, and this might be something that you would consider too. In one of the community associations, they were doing a home seller and a home buying workshop, but they ended up getting like 30 attendees, which was really a phenomenal turnout. I mean, obviously for something like that. So being able to, it's really now about figuring out how to disseminate that information and what the best channels are for that. And I agree with Jeannie, if you can automate something too, while you're also maybe being a little bit, you can run that in a couple different lanes, right? You can have something that's a little automated, and you can be purposeful about one-off events where you're really trying to target and prospect for a certain demographic. So that's awesome. But I applaud you for, you saw something maybe that wasn't working, you switched some things up, and good for you for putting
Oh,
that.
thank
I
you.
loved your term, Marie, slog. Because what I think we realize in real estate with social media is there's time that goes into creating it. right? It's a slog. And then to create it and to have no rhyme or reason as far as if anybody even clicks on it, the reality of it to get good traction, what type of ad spend number that we're talking about, which is just that's just not me. But the money and the time and the learning that I had to go through to learn that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Learn
Yeah.
that, if you're just going to post it on social media free anywhere, don't expect it to, you have to leverage your database, or, you know what I mean? And figure how to knit these things together to get it out. And then drip campaigns in our CRMs are nice, but I know what my inbox looks like. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? If you get somebody, late at night that's on a click trail of your presentation, you know what I mean? That they're funneled into, there's no distraction. They're not on YouTube getting served up 3 different videos after your video, one which could be your competitor, right? I mean, right? you
Yeah.
know? So I think that's what I'm trying to find a cost effective, and it's frustrating because there's things that I love about KV Core. It does, it's the best at certain things, but I don't know that it's keeping up with where we need to be with current follow up, which is so huge. We can generate all these leads, but if there
Yeah.
isn't something that's
Hopefully,
manageable.
hopefully Bold Trail with some of the new AI integration in there will help with that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and not to get off on too much of a tangent, but this is
Sorry.
part of. No, no, you're fine. But this is part of like maybe one of your performance goals is to, if it's building an engagement, your return on investment is going to be, if you're just doing generic, campaigns, or if you're if your content is somewhat generic in nature, if you're just doing it to your whole database as a whole, the return on investment is going to be small, very small. Like Jeannie says, the inbox fills up. People are nose blind to that stuff. But there's this concept in marketing called the long tail. It's like if you picture sort of a bronchosaurus tail, or that big dinosaur, the long tail of the dinosaur. Like if you're up here with content that you're sending out and you're trying to compete with the Zillows and some of the other big marketers online, and the inbox everyone is seeing, you're going to get pushed aside, and it's going to be very hard for you to get noticed. Where you get noticed is in that the end of that long tail, where you get very specific on your marketing message. Like it's great to have that material. It validates you. It validates you in that space. Like you said, it systematizes the process. People now trust that you know the process, but you have to build rapport and build engagement. And the way you do that is now you figure out where the long tail space is, the space where not as many people are in. And again, if that's dog lovers, you go to where the dog lovers are. If it's church groups, you go to where the church groups are. It's wherever that messaging will be heard, and not drowned out from other messaging. And if that's in networking groups and there's not 18 other realtors in those networking groups, or like I said, if it's in a financial planning seminar as part of a church group kind of thing, or if you're doing an event with SPCA and there are other lovers there, that you can bring some value or come from contribution as far as that space goes, it's going to be very helpful to get your messaging across for people to hear what you're saying. And then that's your gateway, that's your foot in the door to start building rapport. So if that's one of your performance goals, that's why you have to be strategic about it, right? And that's why we're talking about this. And then real quick, just to jump over and talk about that process, the bridge process. I know we talked a little bit about last week. You take that survey, figure out sort of what your character strengths are. But then you get into this bridge process. We should be brainstorming about what our goals are, about how we're masterminding about this, about what our motivation is going to be, the what your ikigai is. We talked about that last week, and we talked about relationships, right? I know I mentioned there was someone that I was going to seek out. I was able to last week when I was in DC, part of this advocacy week, I was able to, the one person that I wanted to pick their brain on, sit down, not necessarily mentor under, but gain some insight and start developing a relationship with. I was able to take, we went to dinner and then we went to a sort of a cigar bar afterwards, able to spend a few hours with that person and really develop a relationship and start drilling down on it. It was great. You know, he had talked about why we hadn't done it before, and it was a good opportunity for me now to have that person in my life that I want to model where I want to be and where I want to go. We talk about these, they have these activities in the books, you know, your best future self. What do they talk about in there? You know, what is your dream? What's your vision, your future self exercise, the best possible future self? Those are all very useful techniques and processes and part of that brainstorming. And then now we have to solidify the right relationships around us. You know, we're talking earlier about Jeannie reaching out to a couple of agents, maybe figuring out from them, you know, what they did to really find their space within the industry and what's working for them as far as life work balance, and something that she is trying to model her business on. And that's what we are talking about, like modeling, right, and setting this up and being scientific about it. And the approach of this book club is kind of, and the approach of this book is about all of that, right, being very pragmatic and scientific in our approach to this. So anybody, so are you guys pretty good on, do you have your goals set for this year? Do you have something in writing, and are you starting to build out that bridge framework around it, hopefully? Like I said, for me, I've got a few things going, so.
Yeah, I've noticed, Greg, as I've been engaged in this and other things because of this, it may be adjusting or adding some new goals. In fact, one, I think I want to do, and I think I just confirmed this with my husband. I want to add this year doing the broker course for associate, and to expand upon what Greg was mentioning, Marie, because you're the only face I can see other than Greg's here. I'm trying to find a balance of not wanting to retire. It's just something like that we do. You know, we all could be like Joe Biden and just work forever, or Senate, or there's no term expiration. But I have a certain balance of I don't want to have a team. I've done that. I've had a team. I've had to manage other people, and I'll just like to manage a manageable amount of clients to serve annually, to but also give back to the community. So I've gotten involved in committees, which I'm excited about, and I went to CE course the last 2 days. And yet again, I'm in a large group of realtors, and realizing for the length of time and experience that I have in the industry, the right designation that I should have is an associate broker. Not as far as, and I think, and I'd love some feedback on this from both of you. From what I've heard, that in itself could possibly be, when you're being compared to another realtor in competition, especially online, that designation, I've got all the letters that I can have behind my name. I can't put any more without it being a distraction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The alphabet soup. Okay. So that has just been kind of added. I think that this year, with these interest rates, to take advantage of, if we were going to drop a point, possibly looking forward to the landslide and getting ready for that. I think that this is the time, if there is things to work on like that, to continue to take advantage of positioning yourself for when that wave may hit. My maybe thinking correctly, Greg?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think you saw the Fed temper back what they think they're going to do with rates this year. I think it will be a slow move, but continue in the right direction. Rates easing a bit. If we can get the federal deficit under control a little bit more, that's going to definitely help with rates. But inventory is definitely tracking in the right direction, and we still see demand very high. So um, it's probably slower back to where our baseline is than we might like it, but at least we're tracking and trending in the right direction with that. And as far as going through the GRI and your path to the associate brokers, I think it's definitely helpful for a couple of reasons. Just sort of that validation within the industry and the market space. And I think anytime you're able to expand your bandwidth, which is why I love the fact that this book has broken it down into learning goals and performance goals. Whenever
Mhm.
you're able to expand your bandwidth like that and your purview of knowledge, I think it helps your performance goals, right?
I
Um,
think so. I think that's what created this. It was like,
right.
oh, well,
Yeah.
that's a learning one.
Yeah. For
Well, why not just continue to do this? You know what I mean? Instead of sunsetting and
yeah.
have the actual credentials that confirm, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? While the knowledge and time and wisdom. So
Yeah, and I think you might find too, and it might be counterintuitive, but maybe a blessing is like sometimes less is more. Like if you feel like you don't have to get all of the business all of the time, and you're like, I just want to focus on the quality business some of the time, it'll allow you to be more laser focused and probably maybe even more effective in your business model.
that's what I'm hoping, and I'm kind of looking forward to this is a new model as far as genuinely being involved in, like, this RPAC and the legislative committee, like, things
Yeah.
that I genuinely have a passion for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a time where when I was younger and a, sole provider, uh, in real estate, like, I couldn't have even thought to take any time outside of generating income or leads. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right. Right.
And, now I have that blessing, and why not, focus on serving?
That's awesome. Shader put it in the chat. Let's see here. Yes, I do have my
Hey,
learning goal and checklist documented. I partnered with my coach in December. Awesome. I haven't seen results, but I'm only about 45% disciplined at this point with following my coach's plan. If I can get my discipline level up to at least 70, 80%, I know I'll see better results. My confidence is up and I see myself slowly but surely getting closer to my goal. I just need massive action, just not there yet. Oh, yeah, no worries.
yeah, don't overwhelm with massive action. Just do, even if it's 50%, but consistent, steady wins that race,
Yeah, yeah.
because you can overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
good advice, right? Take some chunk size pieces. I love the book Atomic Habits. You got to know what your end goal is, and then compartmentalize it from there. But break it down into bite sized pieces, right? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a
Yes.
time? How do you do anything? Is like these pieces that are more digestible and figure out what they are. And it's like the dominoes, right? I'll knock this domino down, it knocks that domino down, and before you know it, you have taken massive action through these like little compartmentalized sort of action steps that you've put together, but the results show up. Yeah, consistency is the key. And for me, it's funny because people say that, right? It becomes cliche. I was like, consistency is the key. The way consistency shows up in my life, because I'll get overwhelmed with ideas and I'll have all these grandiose plans. I need to have one plan and I need to be disciplined about putting it on the calendar and putting something together like I did for the AI. I'm going to pay. I paid someone $4,000 and they told me we're meeting every Tuesday night for the next 3 months. And I'm like, perfect. That's the discipline I need. Like when I was in the Marine Corps, I was meritoriously promoted out of Paris Island, meritoriously promoted out of my MOS school because someone was telling me what to do. Like when someone gives me a plan or put something in front of me, I'll do it. If you tell me what to do. The problem with being an entrepreneur, an independent business owner, you're the one who's got to tell yourself what to do, right? You can also tell yourself, you don't have to do it today. Let's focus on this other stuff today. You don't have to focus on what matters. So unless you're just an extremely disciplined person, my brother is a very disciplined person. I'm very easily distracted. I have to find systems or people to keep me disciplined.
Mhm.
And that becomes a challenge as an entrepreneur, independent contractor, because for me, it's squirrel, next shiny thing, next big
Yeah.
idea.
Boy,
And
can
I
I
think
relate to that? Yeah. I'm sorry, Jeannie, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, boy, do I relate to that, because there's so much to learn and so much to offer and to try to produce. For me, it was like, where do I start? And I'd start down one road, and then, like Greg's saying, squirrel, and then something would pop up. Oh, you want to
Right on
learn
the
X,
email.
Y, Z? And I'd be like, yes, and I wouldn't finish this one, and I'm off to that one. And
Yeah.
and I found myself so confused and disoriented.
Discouraged.
And I found myself saying, I'm smarter than this. Why am I allowing this to happen to me? And finally, everybody has their own path. And I just said, I do better, like Greg is saying, if there's a process. And it seemed like everything I was looking at was a little here and a little there. And I couldn't find the common denominator to connect them. So I've been taking time to research these different apps and these different, what works for me, because I like things sequential. I like sequential learning, A plus B equals C. And so I think I've found something that's going to work.
Well, I love that you said that, and there's a reason probably that she share my screen again real quick. There's a reason in the book that she probably starts talking about on the brainstorming phase of things. One of the first things to do is maybe take that via character strength survey, right? Understand where you're at on that wisdom, knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, transcendence sort of scales. Know yourself, and you'll know how you best operate within that framework. So that's great. And then I think part of that realization, that self-actualization, is part of this whole process. And if we're looking at it from a scientific method, or being very purposeful and pragmatic about it, we're going to set ourselves up for greater success. So, to Shadra's point, like you've got these goals and you have all these things, and it might seem overwhelming. Like I've sort of boiled mine down to 5 big rocks that I wanted to tackle this next year, but now I have to compartmentalize it so that I can break it up into digestible, bite-sized pieces, and then make sure it's on my calendar, make sure I've paid for things ahead of time, make sure I have a person or a system holding me accountable to getting those things done. And then incrementally, in small bits, I start knocking it out. And before you know it, I'll achieve all those goals. It's like, they talk about, if whatever it is, if you want to get smarter, if you want to do whatever, set yourself up with, I'm going to read 12 books this year, or whatever it may be. And it may seem overwhelming at first, but if you knock out 1 book a month, by the end of the year, think about how much you can learn by reading 12 books in 1 year, or whatever your pace is. So it is about, you do want to have these big, grandiose goals, but then you have to break them up into bite-sized pieces and manageable pieces that we're able to not be overwhelmed with, but be more strategic about. And that's part of what we're doing, which is great. Kind of getting back onto the bridge part of it. What your investments are. We talked about that. Obviously, I talked about that. The decision-making process and understanding, what's good for you and what's not. It was great that you kind of already talked about what was working for you, Marie, and what wasn't working for you. Now you're kind of course correcting. You've got a different path, a different take. Now we have to make sure that you're optimizing and setting yourself up for success for this next thing. That leads into good grit. We talked about that almost, I think, on our first session, about one of the things that is often the greatest indicator of success is, someone's intestinal fortitude, how much grit they have, how much they're able to kind of like, put the time and effort in to whatever path they're on, even though maybe the results aren't showing up front and it's something a little bit down the road, but still being able to be disciplined in those activities and actions. So it's excellent.
Yes, I read that's kind of like the current word for what Marie and I may have known as resilience.
Yeah.
Grit's the new current. What is that called when you're cool, when you're young? And when we're old, we're not. So the word is grit. We would have called it resilience.
Yeah, it's definitely the word du jour, the word that's in vogue for sure. Yeah, we've got books on it. Everyone's talking about it. But
Right.
yeah, whatever you call it, it's that thing that you have within yourself that you're able to get through, that intestinal fortitude to get through, and then the results will show up. I mean, you got to be smart about it, smart about what you're doing. But I think that does trump. I think it trumps talent. If you're consistent with it. Obviously, if you're talented and resourceful and resilient, then you're way ahead of the game. But you're able to control sort of that ability to be resilient and kind of work through those problems and learn as you go and fail forward, learn from your mistakes, as we often do. But that's great. So kind of where are we at in the process here? That was technically chapters 5 and 6 that we were covering for week 3. 4 is the discussion and goal setting workshop. I guess maybe for next week, if you don't have your goals in place, make sure that you have all your formalized goals. You've gone through the brainstorming portion of it. You've just figured out what the investment was going to be on your part. You've broken them down into either learning performance goals. Perhaps you've got 1 or 2 of each. And then we want to plug in the entire bridge methodology and really start to implement now what that looks like and what the model looks like. And I've got, I would say, 3 of my 5 goals started. There's a couple that I still have to get back on. I've got a performance goal sort of I've got 1 health goal that's a performance goal. I got super sick with the flu and went out of town and I got sidetracked. So now I got to get back on my path for that one, which is funny. And I don't know if it's the older I get or whatever, but if I get off the track on some of my health goals, it becomes harder and harder to get back on. So that's how I got to figure out a way to be smarter about keeping myself on track for some of those, as I do often in my business world.
Well, Greg, we need you to stay on track.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for me, a foundation of because as you can see, 2 bad days of being sick can be very detrimental to what we do. In fact, it's almost impossible for us to be sick because, herein comes you have a inspection or, the things that we need to be present for, right?
Right.
So preventative maintenance or goal setting too, that is first for me. And I've come to categorize it as physical therapy because if I say gym, it does not have the respect, to clients and when you're making appointments and people that try to steamroll and take control of your schedule. You know what I mean? Okay. So definitely recommend to anyone here, you have to implement that into your life. Of course, it always goes with nutrition, but there does need to be physical strengthening and activities to, for your health.
You've got to be able to find that balance for sure.
Yeah.
I think part of my problem last week was, I started the Saturday before last. I haven't been sick in a year and a half. I started feeling sick. My family had given to me. Unfortunately, I think I gave it to my wife. She's at home sick now, but I started feeling sick and I had to go on this conference in DC. And I forced myself to go to this conference, which I had to. I don't think I had a choice around it because there was some important work that I had to do and get done. But I worked from 7 in the morning to 7 at night while I was at that conference. And then as soon as it was over, I got way sicker. I came home and I spent 2 days in bed. And I think it was putting my body through that strain of the conference that made me even more sick instead of listening to my body maybe ahead of time and taking care of it. But you're right, we have to. I feel like I'm just a dumb guy, and a lot of times I don't listen to my body the way I should, or take care of myself the way I should. But you have to. You've got to be mindful about all of that stuff. So that's good, and I'm going to be.
Good.
Yeah, for sure. So next week we'll have our goals at least somewhat locked down as far as identifying them, learning performance. We'll have the model set up for the bridge, and we'll talk about what we need to do as far as executing them. And let me take a look real quick here. Just want to make sure I'm on the same page. Yes. Chapters 7 and 8, sustainability and relationships. And, we'll talk about that being fostering into what we're doing. And we'll talk about the setting up for the last thing, which is accountability and sharing. So anything else before we cut out today? Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for engaging, and stick to the course, and let's get this in place so that we have an amazing, whatever your year looks like, whatever your goals are, amazing year. So appreciate you guys. And Jeannie, I'll share June's contact information. I'll text that to you.
Okay. And I'm kind of curious as far as you're out there learning the AI, like you were mentioning, like I said, affordable, because I have an amazing CRM. I'm not taking advantage of it as much as, you know what I mean? It's like that microwave I mentioned to somebody in a previous meeting. You have all these buttons, but you really just, hit how many minutes or seconds and start,
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you what, if you have time, we can either we'll schedule some time on Zoom, or you can come into the office. I don't know if you're using ChatGPT. You have to have the $20 a month version of it. There's like there's a ChatGPT like plus version and the professional version. One of them's like $200 a month or $100 a month. I can't remember. One of them's 20. If you have the $20 one a month, it will allow you to set up customized ChatGPTs. And depending on what your CRM, it will be like a personal assistant for you and set you up with a framework of what to do, even how to schedule your marketing and everything. It's amazing. It's ridiculous. But I can show you how I do it. Plus is the best. Yeah. Thank you, Shadra.
Is that the plan, Shadra, the $20 one?
Yeah.
Cool.
And they're actually going to be launching this thing called Operator in the future, but there's a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of different customizable chat GPTs that you can plug into. You can have Veed for chat GPT, but more importantly, can you customize your own to your business, which I just started doing for Maryland Living. And it's an amazing marketing assistant. You actually tell it what you want it to be. Like you want it to be the Jeannie Halloran marketing assistant, and you tell it you're going to be the expert at setting up lead funnels and social media marketing, and you start giving it things that you've already put together. You can use this thing called Glasp. If you've done any videos, it transcribes that. You download that into it, and it starts learning how you talk. So it'll start giving you recommendations based on basically how you talk, your personality, and things like that. So
that sounds cool.
Yeah,
it sounds like cool. pulling together, which is what I'm working on now, part of the goals. And it sounds like Marie may be doing the same thing, and most likely Sandra as well. Like all of the systems that I'm using, whether JPAR or outside of it. And then once I have all that, I would love to plan that meeting, you know what I mean, to expedite linking them and having them cross and speak.
Yeah, for sure. Other. Absolutely. Yep. And, I'll leave it with this on the one last thing. One of my things was to really sort of focus in and be the best advocate I could for the real estate space So I've compartmentalized it. I have a call this morning with our county council person. I'm the chair of our local legislative committee, the chair of the public policy committee for Maryland Realtors. I'm going to be leading lobby day on the state. I've already met with for the FPC on the national level, our congressional representative in the House of Representatives a couple times this year. We're doing a Hill visit in June, but so between that one, I'm knocking it out of the park right now. The AI thing, because I've paid for everything up front, I'm knocking out of the park. But you can see when you start to become purposeful about things and getting things in line, it's easy to do. I say it's simple, maybe not easy, but it's simple, right? You can do all these things, but the more I think we break it down and approach it in this way, we become much more effective about it. So I'm excited about
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we're working on.
And Greg, I have to say, I am so happy that the things that I have a genuine passion for, like this legislative RPAC was a little bit more confused, but okay, they're kind of related. I am just so happy that that is something that you're doing, because that to me was an additional benefit.
Yeah.
When I was speaking to Doris, as far as the value add here at JPAR, besides just the package itself, you are such a value, or at least for me and my purposes, whether it's just to stay plugged in, to stay excited,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
Like I
appreciate
said,
it.
comfort can be crippling. You know what I mean? And then what happens with that is then you start to get down on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, at least I do.
Yeah, I tell you, there's this. I don't know if I have it. I know give me 1 second. Let me see if I can pull this up. Might be. Did I play the Jerry Seinfeld thing for you guys last week? Did I play that?
Did you describe it? Maybe.
He was talking about like the perfect comfort zone to be in. Did I play it? Let me see if I have.
Probably triggered a memory for you when I
Yeah,
was
no, you definitely did.
Yeah.
You definitely did. Hold on, let me see real quick here. I don't know.
Because I see that with coaches. They're like, oh, if sudden death is comfort.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You want Marie? I'm liking comfort at this age. You know what I
mean? Right. Yeah.
I feel like I've earned my comfort areas.
But talking about that, it was like you can't be too comfortable, right? You'll die on the vine, so to speak. But you also don't want to be so overwhelmed where you're outside of your comfort zone that you shut down. You got to find that happy medium where you're just slightly uncomfortable, where you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to grow, but you're not overwhelming yourself, and you still have a good quality of life. Because oftentimes in these coaches and stuff, they'll just tell you, get outside your comfort zone, get outside your comfort zone. If you're constantly breaking snapping your rubber band, that's no fun. No one wants to do that. But you have to find that just happy bracket of space outside of your comfort zone that keeps you growing, that keeps you engaged in life, that keeps you this zest or love for learning and living, but not overwhelmed. So that's what we have to find.
Oh yeah, send that to us in the email.
Yeah. I will. I'll put that in the follow-up. I'll make sure I find it and put it in the follow-up.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, and we will see
you.
everyone next week.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.